All right, guys, you want to get rolling here?
Sounds good, Dave.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's all about you
We
now,
got
Dave.
something
Yeah,
to
we
do.
All right. Let's kick it off here. Thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you to the panelists, guys, and thank you to the attendees. So we know our industry has changed over the last year and a bit, and it hasn't gone great places, but I think we're going great places now. So again, thank you to everyone coming. My name is Dave Piper. I work for Cisco. I'm a culinary specialist for the Ontario South region, and my co-host today is Kyle Brandt. Give him a wave, Kyle. He's also a culinary specialist for the Ontario South region. So we're excited to have everybody in the chat today, guys. Feel free to all the attendees. Feel free to ask your questions, get involved. We have a great panel here. We're going to go through who's joining us today in a minute, but get involved, get your questions in the chat there, and let's have a good conversation. And this morning we're going to be talking about, are you reopen ready? Like I said, things have changed. Landscape's a lot different, but we're kind of getting back to a bit of a normal. But what changes have you made? What are you doing? What are your plans? So we have our panel today to have a great conversation about that. We're going to about healthy working environments as well. Things have changed for staff. If you're an employer, things have changed for your staff. And let's get right into it. Let's talk to our panel. So thank you, Ryan Marquis, for joining us today, and thank you for the support of the Culinary Federation. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ryan, and your role at the Federation, and give us a little bit of a bio.
So I started my career off about almost 28 years ago, and for about 20 of those, I worked in hotel and restaurant field, mostly hotels and restaurants in hotels all through North America, US and Canada. Then was able to get the job I am now. I've been there for just over 9 years. I'm the corporate chef for CW Shasky. And since, prior to me being a member or being with the Culinary Federation, with working in hotels, I started in the Culinary Federation around 2005. And I've been a member, an active member on the board and done a lot through that. So I am now president of the Canadian Culinary Federation and trying to bring a new perspective and a new outlook to, and kind of change perhaps how we're perceived, not forget the old, to not forget what happened in the past, but also evolve in the future. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. That's awesome. And, a resource like the Federation right now with things changing, I mean, it's a great group to be a part of. So I think we'll dig into that a little further in our conversation. But moving along, we have Kim Sutherland. Kim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, good morning. My name's Kim Sutherland. I have been a chef in the industry for 20-ish years. I've been actively out of the kitchen for 1 year, which is the longest in those 20 years I've ever been out of a space. And I have opened all kinds of venues across Canada for the company I was with before and across the US. And I've been with the Culinary Federation for about a year now. And I was the person who always pushed against being part of the Culinary Federation and have embraced it and am very much aware of the rewards and benefits and so happy that I get to be part of it now and really looking forward to what the future of our industry brings.
Thank you.
That's amazing, Kim. Thanks for joining our panel this morning. Let's hear from Adelina Sistidiblasis. Adelina, the floor is yours. Please let our viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Kyle, it actually took me about 4 years to say her last name, so good job.
You know what? He did a great job. A lot better than Ryan, so we're good. We're good. My name is Adelina Sistidiblasis. I've been in industry for over 20 plus years. I'm the Central Region Vice President for Culinary Federation, as well as I'm an instructor at our local college. I'm a support member of the Culinary Team Canada, and I own my own catering business, and I'm a Fornoteca oven distributor for all of Windsor and our local areas. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Lots of things happening there. You're busy. Now over to one of Cisco's own, actually, Mr. Dave Franklin. Dave, if you can give us a little bit of a bio about yourself.
Thanks, Dave. I'm one of Cisco Southwestern Ontario's business development managers. Locally, I'm president of the London branch, as well as the Culinary Federation National Treasurer. I've been an accomplished Toastmaster, involved with that organization, and I'm also a member of Scouts Canada's International Service Team. I got into cooking as a kid in the early 80s when I was at a scout camp near Houston. And I got hooked on Texas barbecue, and that's just been what I've wanted to do ever since. I built my culinary career in Ontario, developing my skills in hotels and resorts. And when I was downtown Toronto, I also studied to be a sommelier. Currently, I'm working on my competition judging certification with World Chefs. And I stay pretty active doing different various fundraising activities for charity and staying sharp.
Dave, we were supposed to use the small bio. Short bio, Dave, not the big one. Short bio.
You were longer than me.
What the heck?
Yeah, Dave doesn't know what a weekend is. I mean, every day is busy, so that's awesome, Dave.
Yep.
Well, it's clear, guys. To our viewers and attendees today, lots of experience in the panel today. So again, just a reminder: ask your questions, get involved today. And we're going to kick off our discussion with Ryan Marquis. And Ryan, I'm going to ask you kind of back to the Culinary Federation. Over the past year, what are some of the changes you've seen in our industry? I mean, obviously, like, where do we start? But what are the changes you've seen, and what are some of the feedback that you've gotten from some of your members on the effect this has had on the front of the house, back of the house employee, like basically our whole industry and the hospitality as a whole? What changes have you seen, and what are you hearing?
Well, to actually call what's right out in our face, the decimation of our industry happened about 18 months ago. And, all in all, I think the biggest thing, what anybody can take out of this and what we're seeing is people have learned to adapt. People have learned to find different revenue streams through different ways of going to market. So, as chefs and culinarians, if we do anything, we adapt very quickly, and we're like I hate to use we're like a cockroach. We never die. We keep on going. You know what I mean? There's no way of taking us down. We'll always figure a way to kind of survive. So a lot of the members have they turned around and started making grocery stores out of their restaurants. So they would buy through Cisco, and they would get their pricing and preferred pricing of what they would get, and then they would sell it out in the industry. I mean, we all know grocery retail, they mark it up 50-60%. So if you mark it up 20 points, you're winning. You know what I mean? So they were able to keep going like that. A lot of people have created different online platforms with regards to doing some shopping online. Like everybody's used Amazon and stuff. So now why can't you be a little grocery store that maybe uses your social media channels and different ways like that to be able to place orders? So you get your orders, they pay for the orders, you then place the order through your Cisco distributor, it shows up, they come and pick it up, you put it in your trunk, they get a receipt electronically, and that's what a lot of people have done. And I think it was a matter of time before this was going to happen. And I think this is good for industry. Everybody's pared down their restaurant. Everybody has kind of learned that you can't be everything to everyone. You have to be good at what you do. And, and the explosion of a chicken sandwich. I think we've all seen that over the past 18 months. But what a lot of our members have done is they've really kind of adapted the way they go to market and found different revenue streams.
Yeah, it's anyone who's in hospitality always has, in my experience, kind of a get her done type attitude. So, when there's a challenge like this, we figure out ways to get through it. with the federation, what support mechanisms are out there? Right now, to me, being part of the federation is so important. You just gave some insight. You have all the members that you can get insight from if you are a member of the federation. What mechanisms are available via the Culinary Federation for a hospitality employee?
So we over the past 18 months have really kind of spent a lot of time expanding our online education is really and trying to really find membership benefits. So we actually launched our McKinley Solutions platform where there's like 6 modules for like people that are sous chef and above, and then or chef de partie and above, and then there would be another 5 modules that would be offered to what we would call our young chefs, someone starting out in the industry or someone wants to understand accounting a little bit more. So we've launched it's self-paced education, but as a member, you have access to that. We've also done a strategic alliance with a online culinary school called Ruby. And part of that is you can take courses on sustainability, or you can take courses through, plant-based has really exploded. So you can take stuff through there. And then the World Association of Chefs has really kind of grown their education platform too. And as a member of the Culinary Federation, you also have access to all of those educational portals as well on sustainability. I mean, there's one that I'm taking for the next 3 days, and it's a competition course. So what to look for to do when you do a competition, what's the perfect component of a plate, what do the judges look for, and different things like that. So it's more kind of just eye-opening. So we've done that. We've also implemented a lot of networking opportunities, be it online, because that's the only way we could have done it. And for the central region, and I'll give Adelina credit to this one. This is all her. But we started doing our virtual meetings. But as we were doing our virtual meetings, we involved all 6 branches in the central region. So we would get 80 or 90 people on there at one time. And it was, so we would have some type of educational format, and then we would do breakout rooms. So then you would have your in-person meetings, your branch meetings after that. Love to keep the initiatives. I'm going to put her on the spot every 2 months. I still think we should do that. And then we should have a in-person meeting once every 2 months too. So, but these are things that you're never alone, and you'll find with the Culinary Federation, everybody is feeling the exact same way. People are handling it in different stages, but at the end of the day, we are here for each other, and we're a family. And I know everybody talks the word family, but I've gotten to know so many of our members over the past years who maybe I really didn't know before because they didn't either attend a conference or whatever. But virtually, you really get to know a soul of a person when you guys are all fighting the same issue at the same time. So.
That's amazing. And like I was saying, right now it's great to have that support, and you have the education, you have the sport, the capabilities to talk to people, and like you said, you don't feel alone. One more for you. What about an employee right now? The industry got shaken up. A lot of employees lost their jobs. So somebody, a chef, a cook, front of the house, if they're out of employment right now, is there anything there at the Federation? Is there a way that you can help?
We actually, as a member, and I mean, a lot of people, our membership fees are, I find, not expensive, and we've actually changed the way that we can do our membership fees. So as a young chef member or someone who's been in the industry less than 5 years, it's $50, which you can do on a monthly payment plan, and it's like $9 a month. You know what I mean? So it's, and even a chef member, it's $20 a month if you go on a payment plan. But part of that opens up an entire network of people that are there to help you. So part of another benefit we have is Food Grads, which is an online kind of portal. You can reach out through we've got our new web portal that we ended up just doing. So you can reach out to other members and have conversations with them. I mean, it's really a support. it's support. It adds a lot of support structure, and then the support is really, it's like having your extended family all over the country. And honestly, a lot of people get to know people outside of the country, so it's really understanding your extended family worldwide, because we all are part of World Chefs, right? So
That's amazing.
Incredible insight, Ryan. Thank you for that.
anytime, Kyle.
And that's just a bit of a glimpse into the Federation and some great insight to the support that is available to chefs and cooks.
All right, guys. Any questions? Anything in the chat right now? Not yet. Okay.
I am married, everyone. Thought I'd throw that out there.
All
I
right.
love that you use the term soul, Ryan. You said
Yeah.
soul.
I know you're wearing on
I'm
me.
like rubbing off on you.
Yeah.
I love that.
I had a question for you, Kim. Obviously, there's been so much uncertainty in the industry. Everything's changed, but we're positive now. We're looking ahead. What can an employer do to create a positive work environment for their employees? And I guess at the same token, what could an employee do to kind of get themselves through this as well?
Well, I think so. What I didn't say in my short introduction is that as part of the Culinary Federation, my passion is for culture change and leadership and where we're going as an industry and how we can do better as an industry, which is where my background, a lot of my training come from as well. And I think one of the biggest things is communication. Like we've glorified our busy. We've worn our badge of honor of all the ways that we can beat ourselves down physically and how hard we can work and how overworked we can be. And I think one of the biggest things is as we move forward, we have to be better at it. And we have to be better as human beings and recognize that we're people first and we're chefs and cooks and restaurant people after that. And I think as leaders, recognizing that in staff members and team members is one of the biggest pieces. And as team members, recognizing that your leader might have a life outside of that and is not at your beck and call at all times when they're trying to. And a lot of that has to do with communication and how we're speaking to each other and how we're expecting to be spoke to, and a lot of that is involved in our culture change. And we have an opportunity right now to change all of it. And instead of just rolling back in with the same complaints and everything, like if we go in with a better mindset around what it is we want and what it is our life is worth. Because if we haven't learned anything in the past year, like that would be the one thing that I feel like so many of us in the industry have learned is that wow, I can have a life outside of a kitchen. Okay, now how do I have a life inside the kitchen as well as a life? So
yeah. I have a personal friend who during this time, I know, many of us get so overworked, especially pre-pandemic, get so overworked that, you're always actually, it's terrible to say, but looking for a way out. You're like, oh, how am I going to do this, much longer? And it's funny. I have a personal friend who basically said, when the pandemic hit, this is it. This is my excuse. I'm out. And it didn't take very many months for that person to realize that this is not what I want to do. It's just changed the way I think about work and the way I do work and the way I manage my, my free time. And it was actually like a mental switch, and it had nothing to do with the actual work load necessarily, or just the labor that it is. It was simply how he was looking at that and kind of what lens he was looking at it through. So that's kind of interesting too, is just, how you position yourself and the way you look at, your day to day, right? In our industry.
Yeah. Well, and
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're such an ego-driven industry, and I don't mean ego necessarily in a bad thing. Like we have an opportunity to make the greatest thing someone's ever eaten. We have an opportunity to help be part of the best meal someone's ever had, the best service they've ever had. With that comes a big weight to bear. So when you're given that opportunity, if you don't have your mindset in the right spot, you always want to be there to be in control of that. And what we have learned in the past year is that we truly have no control over anything. So all of us with control issues that have been fighting it for so many years, this is a big eye opener for us. And we kind of went, okay, yeah, like I have no choice but to stay home. I have no choice but how am I going to let go of this control? And that's one of the biggest shifts I hope we make as an industry is realizing that we're really not in control of anything.
Yeah, I too hope that the pause, I call it that, the pause that this has been, it just gives everyone time to reflect, and everyone can kind of tweak the way they look at things. And speaking of which, what do you think? What can an employer do? Is an employer just acting the same way and treating their employees the same way as pre-pandemic, or how do you see employer and employee relationship now?
I think we as employers and the leadership really need to embrace the term leadership and realize that our role is to lead a team, and that it takes every piece of that team to be there, every player on that team to be part of it in order for us to be successful. And we were very much an industry before that would work through our illnesses, would work through our pains, would work through whatever we could. And in some ways we put pressure on our people to show up for that. And I think moving forward, we can't do that anymore, because there's certain things that you just can't work through, and that we're being asked a daily questionnaire to not work through. And I think that's kind of, as much as it's that checklist that we have to fill out, I think we really need to start like giving ourselves a little audit on how we're running, and how our team, give an audit onto our team on how we're moving forward with them, and what we're going to is going to be okay and what's not okay. So we can't go back to the way we were before.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, there's this, I said it earlier, this get her done attitude, and chefs and cooks are generally tough as nails. But I mean, yeah, we have to do a bit of a self check and say, okay, like, is this really the best thing for me? Is this really the best thing for the people around me? So those are some great points. I think, Kyle, you had a question for Adelina, did you?
For Adelina?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious about what's happening at the college level right now. Have the programs changed? Do you see large changes coming for the teaching practices post-pandemic?
Well, we have a lot of student diversity and influx of international students, which is really great. It gives highlight to different menu options and learning adaptations, because, if they have any issues with the language, if there's language barriers and whatnot, we have a lot of international students that come in and can't speak English very well. But it's funny, you put them into a kitchen and they're able to translate a meal faster than the language. So it's nice to be able to see that happening. Programs are always evolving. I know colleges across the country are doing some phenomenal work with adding local components. Any areas that have butcheries or that are known for their meats might have a college that has a butcher program, or any areas that have local development for farming, they'll have that too. So it's very nice. Or wine country, like in Niagara College, not the college where I work, but they have a great wine program as well. So there's diversity in that, and they're evolving, because I think our industry is evolving too. We have so many new trends on the horizon. So it's nice to be able to see people trying to find something new to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about the expectations of the work environment for culinary students coming out? Like, do you think their expectations are realistic?
Well, I'm hoping that most students understand that when they get out of the culinary colleges and programs, that they're not going to be the next Food Network star. That is one of the things that we talk about. We try to stay really transparent with them too, for that reason, because at the end of the day, you're on your feet 14 hours a day. You don't get breaks. This COVID has really given us an opportunity to kind of take a step back and reflect and rejuvenate our what it is that we do. And so I think going forward, things are going to be a lot different because people have kind of had a good taste of what it's like to be around family and to kind of restart. And so hopefully, you know, the students don't get that mentality that, you know, it's going to be easy and I'm going to be making $30 an hour. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. We try to be really transparent about that. No, it takes a while for you to earn your chef balls. And I'm not just saying about your red seal. I'm also talking about what you gain in industry with the people that you work around, and just being called chef. You know, we wear the white jacket. There's a reason for it. We have a lot of pride and passion in it. And I think in schools, as an instructor, that's the most important thing to try to translate to anybody who's coming up in industry, is that the reason why you wear that chef jacket isn't just for show. You really do own and have a passion for what it is that you do.
That's fantastic, Adeline. You know, it is, I feel so important that, you know, students coming out of school having that reality kind of check and get it in line will really help promote a more healthy environment for them to enter the hospitality industry, right?
Yeah, and I think too with the colleges or any of these culinary programs, the idea is that you want the student to gain confidence, learn speed, get patient, have patience, working under tight schedules, balancing the time needed to cook certain dishes and provide a quality dish. Those are all really important things to learn. So I'm hoping that when they you know, come out of the college setting, that they take that all into consideration, and that they've learned that speed and have a little bit of patience, and they've gained a little bit of confidence, you know, cooking what it is that they cook. So
absolutely, I love the patience. Right, that's something, you know, we've all had to kind of change gears with, and I think the more patience we can have these days, it's just going to really help promote that healthy feeling all the way around.
I think 2 years of COVID has given us a lot of patience. Canadians are very passive as a society already. So I hope that they've learned a little bit of patience. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and with that patience, right? I mean, we're notorious for that kind of unbalanced work life, right? So what do you feel the future is going to hold for us? Do you think we're going to be able to have more of a balanced life post pandemic?
Okay, so this question's a little bit debatable because everyone is itching to work. And so businesses might want to go into like a hyper mode, so they might want to work more and accumulate money faster, which is a fear for me because I think going forward, if anything, COVID has taught us that, you know, it's more than work. Life is more than just work, right? At the end of the day, it is just work. And then on the flip side, I think that some people may have taken a break and realized that that life requires that balance. So perhaps employees and employers might want to take more time off. So I'm hoping that the general public would take a step back and look and say, you know what, these people do have lives. They work every holiday. Their jobs are unforgiving because they are on their feet all the time. And then they have to deal with the great personalities of people coming in that either love their food or hate it, right? So that's a lot to have to handle all at one time. So yeah, I think it's kind of debatable. Some might want to work more because they've missed the amount of money that they've made, and hopefully that doesn't deter too much from the quality of food that they provide or put out, and hopefully the general public's a little bit more forgiving as they do move into the reopening stages because they have been off for so long. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Adelina. That was absolutely some great insight on what's going on with our industry and their new chefs, and for those who will be entering the industry in the near future as well. Really appreciate that.
I actually have I have a question for the entire panel, guys, that came in the chat. Over past year, basically everything is QSR. We're quick serve everything, curbside. This is what we're used to for the past little while. What do you guys think? Do you think that we're going to get back to fine dining? Is that going to be a thing? Do you think that an operator can work without having a chicken sandwich on the menu, or do you think without a chicken sandwich, I mean you're up the creek? Like, what do you guys think? Like, and I've been thinking about that myself. Talking to our customers and talking to the customers who are in fine dining. I think it's been a little more difficult for that group to kind of wade through this, actually, because you can't exactly just curbside, a beautiful steak and things like that. I didn't see anyone doing curbside pickup of truffles and foie gras. So what do you guys think? How do you think the industry is going to look for fine dining and just outside of QSR? What do you think?
I'll just jump in here real quick. I think the restaurant scene is in full service, quick service, casual service, everything is going to explode. We're seeing it. I'm seeing it in other parts of the country. Everything is exploding right now. I mean, our we're in distribution as well to you guys. Actually, we sell to you guys, but and I can honestly say, I think 22, 23, 24, 25 is going to be crazy. And then 26, 27, 28, we're going to be in a recession and coming out of it in 29 and 30. I think what happened 100 years ago is going to happen the exact same way. I think everybody's just chomping at the bit right now to spend money, so.
Anyone else want to weigh in on the, where we're going to sit? Is it still, because I think the other thing about it is I think a lot of people, I'm, itching to go out more than ever, but I think a lot of people have really embraced just curbside everything. Like I have friends that love, just pulling up anywhere and just having it put in the car. I mean, that's not for me, but anyone else? What do you think? Dave? What are you hearing? I mean, you're a Cisco guy. What conversations have you had?
I think people are looking for an experience that doesn't come out of a takeout box or out of a paper bag. I think people are looking for to be served, to have service. I mean, we've been cooking for ourselves or doing curbside or pickup for 18 months or longer. I mean, there's been pockets of Ontario that have been open for some modified in-room dining, but for the most part, everybody's been spending for themselves or doing some kind of delivery or modified delivery. So the opportunity, I think, for the operator to show off and give people a great experience, to pamper them, to spoil them a little bit. I think when tomorrow, I think the spas are able to open and people can get a haircut, get their nails done. I mean, I think they're looking for that kind of thing in the dining room. They want to be taken care of. They're sick to death of looking after themselves, and there's a great opportunity, I think, for some showmanship in the dining room as we move into that stage. Hopefully soon, hopefully in mid July, that things will happen that way. I'm optimistic.
Me too.
I can jump in for just a quick second, and I want to tell you, I have 3 children. They are all teenagers, and they are loving the curbside, the pickup, all the trends on how to never leave your house, because they can just make a phone call and food is at their door. It's a lot easier for them than it is for adults that are used to going out for dinner and enjoying that whole camaraderie with your friends and having a night out and purchasing all of those goodies that you're talking about. I think fine dining, I can't wait to have some fine dining. I'm hoping that the industry in and of itself lowers the prices of some of their meats, their proteins and everything, because I think sometimes what's happening with COVID is they're changing the dynamic. They're increasing their food costs. And I hope that's not too reflective on the actual in the restaurants, because it'll keep people away. It might start off great, people will come out, but I think at the end of the day, if their meals are overpriced, it's going to be a hard sell going forward.
And Kim, go for it.
We're aggressive here.
I was going to, I totally agree about, because I as well have 3 kids, so I totally understand where that's coming from. And I think one of the biggest pieces is that, so it's onefold that in doing so and how this is all rolled out, we've also given the opportunity for people to make a lot of things at home. So they recognize that they can have the skills, they can Google a video, it comes on a little piece of paper with all their groceries in a box. So we've given them those things. But I have to say, amongst the people that I talk to, one of the biggest things is that they recognize what the restaurant industry has been doing and trying to do, and that we have showed up every single time to support people who wanted food. Like, this is, I think we as chefs and people in the industry really recognize that, like I always say, food is my love language. That is how I share love with people. I don't care who you are, but I will give you a snack. And I think so many of us recognize that we just want to be there feeding people and serving drinks to them and making a drink and talking small talk at a bar. And I think people who have started to come out again or recognize that was also something they were missing. They were missing that opportunity of having someone wait on you. And as much as a family their dynamics in the household can make dinner together, but to go out and actually enjoy a meal and break bread together when someone else is taking care of it, I think changes the dynamic. And I really feel like people are going to continue to support, because they see that and they see how hard we've been fighting for this.
I totally agree. I actually had a conversation last night over dinner that food is fantastic. We all love food, but just simple things like people watching, just going out to right now a patio and people watching. There's a lot to be said for the overall, that entire experience. And so yeah, I hope we will bounce back. And but it's those little things as part of the experience that we miss too.
Yeah.
And speaking of experience, Dave Franklin, I wanted to ask you, what does reopen ready mean to you, and what do you think a restaurant should have in place right now? Like, we're just kind of getting our footing again. What do you think?
Well, certainly being open ready is a moving target. We still don't have all the details yet for what stage 3 is going to be in Ontario, and right now there's certain parts of Ontario that aren't moving forward with the rest of it tomorrow. So as these regulations continue to evolve, we have to be adaptive. When we get our details for what in-room dining is going to be, we're going to know what those we're going to have to know what those limitations are and how we can execute them. But there was part of the province was able to service in-room dining during the pandemic, or in between the first and second, and the second and third waves. So I mean, they'll already know what to do by spacing out tables and setting their tables as they're sad, and they're used to the single-use condiments and the sanitization of their menus and staff wearing masks and all that. But then there's properties that are just opening now for the first time. When they get their dining rooms open in a couple of weeks, or there's going to be brand new staff that are completely unfamiliar with how to operate during this. So I think they've got to be brought up to speed. And that's a huge step. And I know I'm wearing the Cisco shirt now. Cisco can help with that. I mean, we've got reopening toolkits. There's lots of support there that we can offer, and we've already talked about some of the support that the Culinary Federation can support our members with. I think a well-organized operation that's going to have a strong reopen game is going to really have their customers' minds at ease, and if they're comfortable, I think they'll reward the operators by returning and spending a little bit more money.
Sounds good. What about from a training perspective? Where should they, where should an employee, where should an owner be? There's been some downtime for sure. Now we're ramping up, but from a training perspective, like where's the focus? There's, obviously there's going to be huge focus on cleanliness and sanitization, but it's more than that, right? And where can we focus our efforts in training to properly reopen and to properly bounce back?
Well, we definitely need to be training our staff. I mean, you just can't assume that because they were paying attention to the news on TV that they know what the standards are or what procedures are. I mean, training is just not a one and done exercise for an operator. And I think our more successful operators that are out there, they make that staff education a habit, Dave. That pre-shift huddle. It is a super important tool, especially now, to inform staff of any changes to our regulations, any opportunities that there might be. I think consistent regular training is a key, as an essential task that propels operators forward. I know you talk about sanitation and safety. There's a food safety training course that Cisco has a partnership online. It's like $24. It's got some stuff on there, not just on food safety, but fall prevention, because that kitchen is nowhere near the patio. They're going to be hustling getting food out there, as well as protection for your staff, COVID-19 awareness, and it also gives a nationally recognized food handling certification. It's like $24. You invest in your staff. They recognize that when you train them, it's a big deal, and I think now more than ever, it's very important for staff retention. Everybody is looking for staff right now. I think if you train them, it shows that you care and you want to keep them.
I totally agree with you. Our industry is known for hit the ground running. Apply today, start tomorrow, and you don't have to do that. How's that? Like you've been here 10 minutes. You should know what you're doing. So yeah, I agree with you. And an employer that wants to invest in their and anyone who's been in this industry knows, like they can tell a good employer from someone who isn't quite as sharp with it. So I guarantee, like you're right on that an employee that's getting training is going to appreciate it, and that will equate to retention for sure. I'm going to ask this one. Oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, not to mention, service is so key. I know when I go to a restaurant, if the service was crappy and the food was great, I'd think about it twice before I return. And I think most people are like that because they want good service. Your food can be phenomenal and you have great service and you'll always come back because you know that the food is great and the service was off the charts. But if you have bad service, you might try one more time. If you have bad service again, chances are you won't go back. And the part that hurts restaurants is the fact that a lot of people don't let you know that they had bad service. They just won't come back, right? So feedback is really important. So in the public, on the public spectrum, I think it's important that, restaurateurs and restaurants actually ask for the feedback as opposed to just pretending like it's not happening. Not that happens, but I'm sure it does happen in some places, right?
I can tell you that at Cisco, we've, and sorry, Kim, we'll jump over here in a second, but we've had operators that have incredible, they run incredible menus, they execute them flawlessly. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, they've come to actually Kyle and myself and gone, look at my social media. And it's just a stream of how bad the service was. And it never had anything to do with the food. So, I mean, Kyle and I have worked with I remember one customer, we had to really dig into, just training. It was training, and actually also how they dealt with their social media. But yeah, it's again, the experience, no different than the people watching. I mean, we're going to be critical too, chefs. We can cook for some pretty good food at home. So if we're going to go out and spend our money, we're going to want the full package. We're going to want awesome service too. What did you want to say there, Kim?
I was going to say, as we're opening up as well, and we're looking for staff, because like David said, everyone is fighting for staff right now. And I think as an industry, if we start to broaden our horizons a little bit, knowing that, and I'll tell you a story purely based on my successes, is that I hired a really young group of staff and I invested time in training them and getting people to show them what to do. They weren't industry people before. Most likely they will be industry people moving forward. Instead of everyone fighting for the same great line cook that you've heard about, you know what? I challenge our industry to start filling those shoes. And I've always said, I don't want to do this forever. So I always wanted to have someone come up and try and take my job. I want you to be part of this industry and to love it. So the 15, 16, 17-year-old population really want to earn money. Like they're a money hungry, almost on a whole population. They want to be part of something. They want to learn new skills, especially after this year. They're starved for any form of education that they can possibly get their hands on, and learning something new where they get to be out and be social and be applauded for it. So my role was often, I took myself out of the everyday practices of being on the line and just worked at teaching and educating and bringing up that network. And there's so many of us, and I was that way before, where I only hired based on resume. I only hired, it was all based on, you wouldn't even get an interview if your resume didn't have at least 2+ years experience, things like that. And I challenge us now at this time to really open up that door a little bit wider and start to let more people in, because we're essentially, we can reshape the entire future right now.
In my personal experience, especially in fine dining, with anyone who came wanting to learn and didn't come with that big resume, which also 9 times out of 10 came with a big ego.
Yeah.
That was the hardest working person you had, was the person who was younger and really was driven to learn and felt like the fact they were in that particular kitchen was they were the luckiest person in the world. So it is interesting, I think there's been a shift too. We've seen a lot of, Colin and I have seen a lot of employers only hiring, like you said, non-industry people. Like one gentleman in particular, that's all he will hire is, I don't want cooks. I want people who want a job, and which is an interesting way of looking at things. But like you said, after, when they change employment eventually, if they do so, they probably will stay in that industry. Like I would imagine they will.
And I didn't need a bunch of chefs. I had a team of really great chefs and leaders. I needed people that wanted to be there and could follow instructions. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces. We need people that can follow instructions. It's not rocket science. Let's put it plain. We're making food. People do it every single day. So we really need to get over ourselves in the industry as a whole and start to bring in a lot more people.
I agree with you. Here's another one for the entire panel. So there used to be, depending on the kitchen, there's oftentimes you're doing your prep, your mise en place, and sometimes there's even a hurry up and wait, and that happens in catering a lot of times as well. So you have idle hands sometimes. I feel like those days are likely behind us. I don't think there's going to be a lot of idle hands. What do you guys think about business models now in restaurants? Less staff likely. Would you agree that there's going to be less staff moving ahead, or do you think we're going to get busier and all of a sudden we're going to have a lot of staff, and before we know it, we're going to have just the exact model we did pre-pandemic? What do you think the kitchen's going to look like?
Well, I personally think they're going to cut for sure. It's like anything else, right? You can't see it. Things are going to slow down, and it's probably the biggest mistake people are going to make. Problem is, and I think we touched on it a few times, we talked about customer service, we talked about training, we talked about things like that. You can actually, once all that is in place and people continue to grow and want to work for you versus being it just a job, and they want to actually work for you and help you succeed, as in the operator succeed.
Did we lose them?
Was that me? Get cut off? Yeah, my schooling for my
You're
kids
buffering.
still. My schooling for my kids still go on for another day here, so they're all online right now. So unlike other regions that their school is over like last Wednesday, no, we're still going. But I think it's a mistake. I think they shouldn't cut back. I think they should invest in their staff, and I think they create a culture of them wanting to work for the employer versus being just a job, and that's the way you're going to succeed. Any other way, I'm not saying you're going to fail. I'm just saying it's going to be a harder road to victory.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have a question for the panel here that's in the chat. What's the best interview question to find a good candidate for whatever it is you're doing in hospitality, whether it's a restaurant, whatever, a food truck, it doesn't really matter. What are some good interview questions? That might have changed too a little bit, and actually, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Sure. I want to know what excites them and what motivates them. I mean, it's pretty quick to see if somebody's interested in hospitality by what they talk about, and if they kind of give you a humdrum sort of answer when you find out that they're not passionate about food, that they don't read cookbooks or have a favorite cook that has a YouTube program or doesn't dine or eat out. Like if they're not motivated by food and doing great things with it, then that person might not be a great creative line chef. But it's not to say that person doesn't have value, because they could be a real sturdy foundation employee. But you got to find out, I think, what excites them, what motivates them, and what'll move them. I think as a team leader, I think that's going to help me place them and find a home for them on my team.
Dave, I went to culinary school to get a boyfriend. So I had no interest in cooking. I didn't want to be in a kitchen. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to get a boyfriend, and I thought I would look good in a jacket. And that is why I went to culinary school. 20 years later, 20 plus years later. So I think you can be have guidelines, but you really have to be open-ended on those questions. I might be the anomaly, of course, but
Kim, you picked the most male-dominated field ever, so you had great odds.
Well, I think my odds were pretty good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, to that point of, I guess, of education. So Adelina, like is there any is that still in the curriculum? Is there any assistance in education to how to get jobs and how to write a resume and things like that?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I teach one of the programs that has information on interviewing, and they do like a quid pro quo. Everybody asks questions, and you do mock interviews, which is great. It's a very useful tool for them, because the days of them coming in and having to cook something, there's a lot of employers that don't do that anymore, but at a time that was important to see. I know that employers, they do look, at least in this area, they do look a lot at the resume, where they've cooked before, what organizations they're part of is very important too, because it shows that you are more than just your name and your credentials. You actually have a passion for what you do, because you're pursuing it by being a member of associations like Culinary Federation and other culinary organizations. And then I think one of the best things that I usually tell my students is, when the interviewer is asking you the questions, you have to be engaged. But instead of you just answering the questions, you should be asking the questions. So I think on the flip side, a person coming into a job interview should ask, like, what are the day-to-day roles of other people? What is everybody's position here? Or how did you get to where you are today? Why is it that you're interviewing me? What is your involvement in in this business, you know, because sometimes if they have a very close relationship or they own the business and they're doing the interviewing, they have a different level as opposed to someone who's managing the business and they come in and they have questions that they want to ask. They've already seen things if they're not part of a family of in that restaurant or whatever owners, then they'll have like a different view on how they see the business being run, right? So I always ask them, you know, you should be asking some questions too. It shows that you're engaged. It shows that you're interested, and that, you know, with that little bit of encouragement, you'll probably get to see too if it's someplace that you want to work, because there might be questions that they ask and you're like, you know what, that's a really hard question. I'll table it for another interview, but I have no desire whatsoever to work here, right? So I think there's value in both, right? They need to see that they themselves are worthy of the job because of what they can and can't provide for that business. And if they don't like it, then they should move on. They shouldn't, you know, look into it any further, right?
It totally has to be a good fit. I can tell you a very quick story, a personal story of mine. I applied when I first moved to Toronto at a very large hotel there, and I asked a question during the interview. The chef told me what I was going to be doing. You were going to be cutting melon, and the truth is, at the time, it was more money than I had ever seen, like by a long shot. I couldn't believe it. And I was sitting there with the, you know, and I asked the question. I said, "Is there room for advancement, or can I, you know, branch out?" It was a
Great
hard,
question.
it was a hard no. I'm not joking either. It was a hard no. And I'm no word of a lie. I went across the street to a fine dining shop there, and I made half the money. And I did that for a very long time, and I learned a lot. And had I not asked, you know, is there room for advancement here? Who knows? Maybe I'd still be cutting melon. I don't know. But, yeah, I think it does show, you know, initiative, and it does go both ways for the employer and the employee.
Absolutely.
We do have to kind of wrap it up here, guys. We're coming up close to the end. Any final comments here from the panel?
Well, Kyle's doing, because we haven't heard much from Kyle. He's all
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just loving the conversation that's happening today. There's been so much great insight from you guys. You know, the panelists, thank you so much. You guys have done a great job. You know, I want to send a special thanks to Ryan, of course, for help supporting us and bringing this all together today. And if you haven't checked out Culinary Federation, it's culinaryfederation.ca. Check it out. I mean, there's a wealth of information there to have. And as well to, you know, any of our attendees today, you know, your Cisco Business Resource Department, you've got non-food specialists, produce specialists, protein, culinary specialists like David Piper and myself. If you have questions, reach out to us. We are more than happy to find the answers for you.
And the thing to note too, to anyone who's joined us today, I mean, if you're not purchasing your food from Cisco, so be it. But let's just have a conversation and see what you know, our resources can do for you, what business resources can do for you, because the list is very long, actually. So we're open to having conversations with anybody. Don't think it's some closed world where you have to be buying every single item from Cisco. That's not the fact. And thank you to all the panelists. Like Kyle said, I just want to tell everybody on the call today, you know, stay tuned. July the 13th at the same time, we're going to be starting at 9:30 in the morning. We're going to be doing a ready to use, like an RTU speed scratch workshop. So I believe, and I'm sure our panelists will agree, we will have a different panel for this next webinar, but I think a lot of ready to use products and some speed scratch cooking techniques are going to be very prominent in kitchens for the next little bit for sure. There's less staff right now, and operators have to get crafty, and we have a lot of tips, tricks, and products to show you. So again, it's going to be July the 13th at 9:30 a.m. And if technology works, we may have a clip for you, and if it doesn't, we won't. Is there a clip available?
If not, we can keep talking.
sloppy. It wasn't doing it quite right. So on July 13th, we're going to show all our attendees, all our viewers, some better ways to do things. So stay tuned for that. Again, thank you to our entire panel today, and thank you to all our attendees. Thank you for the questions in the chat, and as always, reach out to any of us at Cisco for any support that you need. And unless someone else anything else to say, I think that sums it up for this morning, guys.
Thank you to you guys. You did a
Thanks
great job.
for everything.
Yeah,
And reach
thanks
out to the
Cisco.
Culinary Federation. You have to
Yeah.
join us. We're like a really cool gang.
Well, me and
Look
Kim are.
at your face. You say cool gang all over you.
Yeah. That's
It'd only take you 5 years to learn Adelina's last name, though.
That's it.
All right, guys. I think that sums it up, and I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.